سلام خدمت دوستای گلم. بریم سراغ یه ویدیوی دیگه. دوست خوبم آقا جلال دونیت هم کرد و گفته یه دست SF برم. ببینیم SF میرسه. یه دست SF برم، امیدوارم خوب در بیاد. دیسراپتر، دسپروفت، سایلنسر، نیکرولایت. خب استفا بزنیم همین الان. امیدوار باشیم که کانترش نکنه.
Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? I must hunt soon. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed.
تانگو هم که نداد. بعد سرم.
Hello.
What, mortal? You thought of that?
رو پای خودم باید
Very
وایسم.
well. Greetings. What is it now? I must hunt soon. Agreed.
اپسیدان میاد جلو.
You thought of that? Agreed. Very well.
نیکرولایت فارمر نیده بودیم
What,
که دیدیم.
mortal? Greetings.
باز خوب شد نیومد مید.
You thought of that? Very well. What is it now? You thought of that? Greetings. Agreed. You thought of that? What is it now? What, mortal? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan.
نه جلو زوز.
Yes, my lord.
پس یه ماجیک بگیرم.
What? What? Mortal? What is it now? I hunger. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. I must hunger soon.
این چیه؟
Our allies' town needs help.
You thought of that? I hunger. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? I hunger. Die. Rages. I hunger. Breathe. Your soul is mine. That was my plan. Very well. Death rages. I hunger. Is it now? Thought of that?
بوت گرفتم که
Thought of that?
حالا دارم بهش فکر میکنم دیگه. اگه سه شدم دنبالش کنم بکشمش.
Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. Agreed. That was my plan. I hunger.
جلو هم نمیاد.
That was my plan. Agreed. First blood. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Death rages. That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well.
حداقل ماناشو کنسل کنم. کمتر اون دو بزنم.
Death rages. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Die. I must hunt soon. That was my plan. Agreed.
Our warriors have
اینجوری
engaged.
که بوش میاد گایرات خطرناکه.
Rages.
بچه ها بالا رو دادن.
I hunger. Very well. You thought of that. Agreed. What
یه
mortal?
باتل میگیرم علال حساب.
Our allies' town needs
پایین
help.
چجوریه؟
That was my plan. Death rages. I must hunt soon. Agreed. I hunger.
دنبال همین یه قدم بیاد جلو.
Very well. What mortal? That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that. Agreed.
نظرت میخوام.
Agreed. Very well. I must hunt soon. That was my plan. What is it now? Thought of that. Greetings. Agreed. That was my plan. What is it now? Very well. That was my plan. Soon. What is it now? Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Your soul is mine.
دام ببین.
What is it now?
کله یکم دیگه نزدیکش نبودم ولی دادم که گفتم شاید بخوره دیگه. خوب شد. دوتا کیلم اینجا گرفتم. برم فارما رو مستک کنم.
Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
Mortal.
گایرو رو چیکار کنم؟
Death rages. What is it? What mortal? I must hunt soon. Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. What is it now? That was my plan. I must hunt soon. What is it now? You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan.
مردم ولی اشکال نداره. اونم کشتم. خوبه گایرو رو هم کشتم.
The night. You thought of that? What is it now? Agreed. Very well. I must hunt soon. That was my plan. Greetings. You thought of
برم
that.
سراغ خامه که استک کردم.
Mortal.
باز دوباره بالا کیل داده.
What is it now? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
Greetings. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed.
Our
That
allies'
was
town
my
needs
plan.
help.
حالا که فانتوم اومده فارم این طرف مجبورم برم اون طرف.
Very well. Mortal. You thought of that? Greetings. What, mortal? What is it now? Die. That was my plan. Well. Plan. That was my plan. Greetings. You thought double kill. Very well. I hunger. You thought of that?
وای یه اتک.
Our
What,
allies'
mortal?
town needs help.
What is it now? That was my plan. What, mortal? You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Die. That was my plan. Greetings. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed.
خب
I What mortal? That was my plan. Very well.
حالا که اینقدر گلد دارم اول میرم تراول
That was
میگیرم
my plan. What is it?
بعد میرم سایکل.
Very killing spree. I must hunt soon. Greetings. That was my plan. I must hunt. Greetings.
Our allies' town needs help.
That. Very well.
6 داره خطری.
That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? I must hunt soon. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan.
اینم یه سکویل شیکومانی.
What is it now? You thought of that? Death rages.
Our allies' town needs help.
Agreed. Die. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? That was
Okay.
my plan. What is it now? Greetings. What is it now? You thought of that? Your soul is mine. What, mortal? Greetings. What? Death rages. I hunger. Very well. Rages. What is it? That was my plan. Agreed.
ای خدا.
Plan. Very well.
میذاشتی من بردارم دیگه چی میشه؟
Was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that?
مردن یعنی؟
Agreed.
بله. یه ذره زود نیست برای همه تون جمع شدیم داداشا.
Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan.
Our allies'
Very
town
well.
needs help.
That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan.
اگه یه نفر میومد نمیذاشیم تاور مید بیفته.
You thought of
به
that?
تاور میدمون هیچ حسی نداشتم
What is
بچه ها.
it now? Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Greetings. What is it now? Die. Very well. I hunger. Die. You thought of that? What, mortal? Very well. Agreed. Very well. I must hunt soon. You thought of that? Agreed. Is someone injured? What is it now?
مید وایسم 12 شم 6 همو بگیرم برم سر
That
وقت
was my plan.
گاهی رو.
Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Greetings. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well.
اینجا وارد
Was
دارم.
my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. What? That was my plan. Very well. I hunger. You thought of that? That was my plan. I must hunt soon. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Rages. Very well. Agreed. What is it now? You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Dominating. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan.
اینجا دیگه جای موندن
What,
نیست.
mortal? I must hunt soon. Very well.
بریم وسط.
Double kill. What? Very well. That was my plan. Very well.
اینم که ول کنم نیست.
Greed.
صبر کن دگرم بیاد دارم برات.
That was my plan. What is it now? What, mortal? You thought of that? That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? What is it now? That was my plan. Very well.
کیلا هم که 16 بازی خیلی عقبه. فقط من خوب کیل گرفتم. بقیه یاران تعطیلم.
Very well. You thought of
خب بالا نشون میدیم میریم پایین.
that was my plan. You thought of that?
مردم یعنی
That was my plan. Agreed.
لینک هم بخورم.
Warriors have engaged.
ده کدوم هکر زده بودم ها. گفتم سایکلون کنم دگر کنم. همونجا که دگر خریدم باید میرم ببینیم این فانتوم تا بازی چیکار میکنم. حالا تا جایی که بشه من کمکش میکنم.
Our allies' town needs help.
Thought of that? Death rages. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? I hunger. What, mortal?
سولم ندارم برم تو فایت.
Very well. That was my plan. Greetings. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. I must hunt soon.
ایرانم ببینیم با هم دیگه.
Agreed. What, mortal? You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of that? Very well. Death rages.
Our allies' town needs help.
Very well.
چی بگیرم؟
You thought of that?
آیتم یک فرم دیکی همشون اسپلن.
That was my plan. You thought of that. That was my plan. You thought of that. I hunger. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that. That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? You thought of that. Very well. That was what is it now? You thought of that? Dominating. Killing spree.
Our warriors have engaged the
What is it
enemy.
now? Very well. I must hunt soon. What is double kill? What is it? What? That was my
اینقدر زود
plan.
میمیرن که اصلا فرصت برای کار دیگه پیش نمیاد. جوین بدی، کیل بگیری.
That. What is it now? Very well.
یه ذره فارم کنیم شاید یه فرجی شد آخر
Our
بازی.
warriors have engaged the enemy.
You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Agreed.
Welcome to our village.
Greetings. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? What? Agreed. Very well. I must hunt soon.
0526 03.
What is it now? What? Mortal.
امیدی به این بازی ندارم
I must hunt soon.
ولی یه حسی بهم میگه گیمو میبری.
What is it now? I must hunt soon.
البته اگه این دیسی نشه.
Greetings. You thought of that? What is it now? I must hunt soon. Greetings. What, mortal? I must hunt soon. What is it now? I must hunt soon. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of eatings. That was my plan. Dominating. Very well. That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
You thought of that? Death rages. Die. Very well. Death rages. That was my plan.
همون یه ذره امیدی هم که داشتم با دیسی شدن نیکولایت
Agreed.
بر فنا رفت.
You
Our
thought of
allies'
that.
town needs help.
برم
I am ready.
بیس.
I must hunt soon. That. What?
دگرامو کامل کنم.
That was my
یه
plan.
لینکن بزنم.
You thought of that? That was my plan. Greetings. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. That was... I must hunt soon.
I wish only to serve.
Greetings. I must hunt soon. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan.
کاش به جز روز کاهی بود.
Very well. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Greed. What is it now? I hunger. Greed must hunt soon. Greetings. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed.
Our warriors have engaged the
What
enemy.
is it now?
I bow to your will.
Greetings. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that. Agreed. What order? That was my plan. Very well. That was my
دیگه سعی میکنم یه جا وای نستم که خطری اومدم تو فارمشون بیکیوی هم ندارم.
was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Very well.
خب
Greetings. Killing. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan.
دوباره بریم بالا.
You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed.
How may I serve?
Soon. Very well. Die. I hunger. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well.
Our allies' town needs help.
Death rages. Agreed. Die. What is it now? Thought of that? That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
I hunger. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Greetings. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan.
چرا رفتی؟
You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. Your soul is mine. You thought of that? Very well. Double kill. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my
Our
plan.
warriors have engaged the enemy.
فایت خوبی بود، فایت خوبی بود، فایت خوبی بود. راضی بودم.
That was my plan.
امید برمیگرده به اردوی تیم.
What is it now? You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was
تگرامو
my
کامل
plan.
کنم الان.
I must hunt.
خیلی آیتم میخوام که شاید گیم رو ببریم.
That was my plan.
کلاک یهویی رفت تو صورتشون.
That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? Die. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Death rages. You thought of that?
نسبت به تایم بازی لول اپ هم خیلی خوبه.
Very well. Die. Very well. Thought of that?
Insufficient gold.
Very well. That was my plan. Killing spree. I hunger. You thought of that? That was double kill.
تگر ندارم.
Very well. You thought of that? Greetings. I must hunt soon. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. What, mortal? You thought of that? Death rages. Agreed. What is it now? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. What is it?
با این از این
Greetings.
آیتم هم بیاد 25 هم نشتم
Very well.
Our warriors have engaged.
My plan. Must hunt soon. Very well. That was my plan. Greetings. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. I hunger. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. What mortal? I must hunt soon. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Die. You thought of that? Death rages. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Greetings. Very well. Die.
Our warriors have engaged.
Death rages. You thought of that? Agreed.
My life for
What is it now? What, mortal? That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? I hunger. Killing spree.
اوه چی همه گفت داد
Very well.
برو
Agreed.
برم بیست و بیام
What is it now? I must hunt soon. That was my plan. What is it
خب الان
now?
چی بگیرم خوبه
Greetings. Very well. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. I hunger. Very well. You thought of that?
سایکلونش کنم فانتوم برسه دوتا چشمش
That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Death.
تکس خوبه بشم خوبه
You thought of that? I hunger. That was
بش بگیرم بهتر
You thought of that?
کاملش کنم برم رو گاهی رو تک کنم
Must hunt soon. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Death rages. That was my plan.
گاهی رو اینقدر کیل داشت کشتمش بهم وام داد
Very well.
900 تا گل
You
داد
thought of that? Agreed. What is it now? That was my plan. Greetings. Very well.
غلط کردم
That was my plan.
نزدیک بود
What is it now?
همش هم کریت زد
Must hunt soon.
خب
Greetings. What, mortal?
Which way?
What is it now? You thought of that? Very well. Greetings. Agreed. What? That was my plan.
نه زیاده
That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. Greetings. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan.
What news?
I must hunt soon. You thought of that. Very well. Agreed.
گفتم نیکولایتمون افتاد بیرون، باختیم بازی رو، اما بهتر شد.
That was my
کاش زودتر میافتاد بیرون.
You thought of that. Death rages. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that. That was my plan. You thought of that. Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that. I must hunt.
یه ذره دیگه هم طول بکشه نیازی به سایکل ها ندارم دیگه.
Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that. What? Mortal. Agreed. You thought of that.
وایسیم در کمین ببینیم اینجا چیزی گیرمون میاد.
Very well. I must hunt soon. You thought of that. Agreed. What is it now? What? Mortal. Very well. Your soul is mine. You thought of that.
فرار 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 فرار.
Must hunt soon.
یه بار دیگه.
That was my plan.
اینقدر این کار امتحان میکنم تا بالاخره
Well.
بتونم بکشمش.
Agreed.
یه ادرنال هم بگیرم، لول هم دمیج بیشتری بدم.
I must hunt. Agreed.
ای ساده.
Greetings. What is it now? You thought of that?
Unstoppable.
That was my plan.
Mega killer.
That was my plan.
Unstoppable.
Agreed.
Double kill. Triple kill.
روز هم راسیمون.
That was my
وایستا وایستا
plan.
وایستا وایستا هیچ کاری ندارم.
Monster kill.
I bow.
اینا رو کشتن یادم رفت زئوس بنداز. اولترا کیل. اون یه دونه هم میذاشی من بزنم رمپیج شد.
Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? I hunger. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that?
ببینمت موردی مگه اینکه دیسک داشته باشی.
Agreed. That was my plan.
Godlike.
Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Die. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. I hunger. Agreed. I must
خب الان
hunt
که
soon.
فولم میتونم
Death rages.
تراولمو کامل کنم.
Mortal. That was my plan. I must hunt soon.
وایستا تا من بیام.
Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. I hunger. You thought of that? That was my plan. Your soul is mine. I must hunt soon.
حالا که تراولمو کامل کردم اینجا واسه یه آیتم دیگه هم دارم.
That was my plan.
وای 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 بدم کن بدم کن خرد کردم.
That was my plan. Death rages.
برم بیس رو بیام.
Very well. What?
My life would
تا هم یه کار مثبتی بکن دیگه.
Must hunt
thy
soon.
bidding, master.
Agreed.
I wish all to serve.
Very well.
رفرش بگیرم یا
Of that,
هکس بگیرم یا
you thought of that.
هکس میگیرم.
What is it now? Very well. Agreed. Very well. I must hunt soon. That was my plan. You thought of that. I hunger. Agreed.
بچه ها دمتون گرم که حمایت میکنین. مرسی. با شلال دمت گرم بابت حمایتت. امیدوارم از این استفاده خوشت اومده باشه. دیگه اول بازی یه ذره زیادی فشار بودن بچه ها.
Agreed. I hunger.
هر کی هر جور میتونه حمایت کنه. دمتون گرم.
Agreed. Very well. Agreed. I hunger.
Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
خب برم تو کلک گایرو دوباره.
That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. Must hunt soon.
ولش کن.
Very well.
اونجا دیگه خطری.
That was my plan.
از آخرم
What is it
چرا
now?
بیکی بگرفت. میخواد بره دیواین بگه.
That death rages. Agreed.
Where shall my blood be?
Greetings. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that?
فکر کنم گایرو هم میخواد دیواین بگه.
Very well. That was my plan.
دلشو زده به دریا دیگه.
Agreed. I hunger. That was my plan.
Thy bidding.
What, mortal? You thought of that? I must hunt soon. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Holy shit. What is
با
it?
3 تا کویل کشتمش.
That was my plan.
خیلی راحت مرد.
Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan.
حیف بود رو این 6 بزنم.
Warriors have engaged the enemy.
جی جی.
Plan.